e-tron GT, an extremely important model for Audi. It's a car that has to prove how emotional electromobility can be. It's a car that is proof that electric cars are not only urban vehicles to use on a bus pass, but also a big Gran Turismo with great performance and a good range. But we already know this car. It's called Porsche Taycan, and I don't want to surprise anyone with the fact that it's a technical twin, because e-tron and Taycan are almost the same cars in terms of technology. If you thought that today I would compare e-tron to Taycan, you are wrong, although I admit that I wanted to do it in the beginning. But these cars have one thing in common: the astronomical price. And the question is, do we really have to pay so much to get such emotions? The car that is on the plan today proves that it is not. Before you, Tesla Model 3. Many people may think that the guy is crazy. He compares the e-tron GT with the Tesla Model 3. If he wants to compare with Tesla, let him compare with the Model S. Well, not really. I'll explain why. We don't have RS e-tron GT on the stage, but GT60 e-tron. This means the Tesla model has very similar power, similar acceleration, also four-wheel drive, and it offers more range, and all of this for less than half of Audi's price. Maybe in the general calculation it will be worth to pay more, but we won't be sure if we won't check it. Of course, the first thing that makes these cars different is the dimensions. e-tron has almost 5 meters of length, Tesla 4.7, e-tron 1.96 meters of width, Tesla 3 cm less, e-tron 141 meters of height, and Tesla 144 meters. However, the bigger dimensions don't apply to the trunk capacity because Audi e-tron GT has 405 liters of luggage space. The total luggage space of Tesla is 542 liters. There is also something like prestige, and here Audi makes a bigger impression. Is it prettier? I don't judge it. It certainly is an eye candy. On this car, you will find an incalculable number of sharp lines, cracks, and overpressures. In the side mirror, as on the plate, you can see the roots of Porsche and even the same view, i.e. huge blunt rear fenders. In addition, a massive rear, interesting designed lamps connected with LED strip and a large diffuser. Well, a lot is happening here. Tesla is the complete opposite of Audi. Here we are dealing with minimalism in its pure form. Once my friend called this car a soapbox, and I have to agree with him, because this car looks exactly like that. The lines and the shape of the car remind me of a toy for babies, which you will never hurt yourself with, and there is no chance of getting a scratch. But Audi is just a scalpel. One wrong move, and the wound is done. These cars are not only different on the outside, but of course inside. So it is worth showing how they are made, what materials are used, how everything is fitted. But look at it through a certain prism. This particular Audi costs little over 100,000 USD, and this particular Tesla is less than 30,000 USD. And only after this information, I invite you to the interior. One more thing before I get to these cars. I wanted to show you the keys. In Audi, it's nothing special, simple key. But in Tesla, when I came to take this car, owner said that he forgot to take the card to this car and that we have to drive up and get it. And when he said he forgot the card, I thought he meant a card like in Renault. But here it turns out that in Tessin, it is not a card, it is just a card, like a bank card. To be honest, I did not expect that. Inside Audi, you can feel the modernity, and we can find generally popular trends. There is a lot of screens, even more piano black, designer-like writing in front of the passenger, and interesting textures. But looks is a matter of taste. The question is how everything is finished and fitted. Let's check how this car is finished. I'll start with the roof, which is covered with leather, but it's quite hard and badly installed. It could be done better. Here we have leather, but here it's already soft. Piano black, another texture. Here carbon, which looks like real. Below we have hard plastic, leather upholstery, soft leather armrest, piano black, no chance to move it, just like a rock, leather door. Carbon Alcantara leather armrest with soft leather. I would like to pay attention to the huge panorama in this car look. It's really impressive, and I told you in Audi that there is a huge panorama look here. If not for this bump, it's one big window. I don't want to know how much the back part costs when something happens to it, but when it comes to the interior, it's like on the outside. Minimalism in its pure form, but how it's all arranged. Oh, a grasshopper, you can see that it is an ecological car. So how is it all fitted? Tesla is cheaper and that means it is half worse? No, look at this material on the dashboard. It is very soft. It is not leather, but it is really soft here. We have a silver leaf, and you can see that it is a very good material here. We have wood, real wood, storage compartment, Alcantara, leather. It is all fitted, also rock solid. Here it is soft. On the doors, soft. Again, wood. Again, Alcantara. Here also soft. How are the doors fitted? They are slightly deforming, but they don't make any sound. I have to admit that the fitment is really on the highest level. And I have to mention one more thing, namely the system, which is the center of command in this car. And there are such absurd things as making a prank to a friend. Let's check how much space is in the back. After all, Audi is a much longer car, but also much lower. So how comfortable is it to travel in the back? And here we go. I fit in Audi without any problem. There is little space for my feet because the floor goes up a lot under the seat. Above my head, well, 3 fingers of free space, but I really have nothing to complain about. I feel very comfortable. And another surprise, even in front of my knees, I have a lot of space. The first thing I felt was that the seat is much lower and my legs are much higher, and the comfort of sitting is a bit worse at a longer distance. I have no support under my thighs but above my head. 4 fingers of free space, no complaints, also a lot of space. I've been going through the car's coverage. I've told you a few things, but let's move on to the most important thing, which is the technical data, which, despite the various segments, are not that different. The e-tron GT has 476 horsepower and 630 Newton meters of torque. However, it has a boost mode which raises the power to 530 HP, but it does it only for 2.5 seconds while accelerating. And yes, accelerating to 100 kmph with this boost mode is 4.1 seconds, but without it, it's 4.5 seconds. Tesla has a bigger problem. From the point of view of the users, it's not a problem at all, because this car was supposed to have about 450 HP, but at the time of the receipt, it turned out that this car has 498 HP, a present from Elon Musk. So in the case of Tesla, it is a lottery, and I think that with the acceleration, it is also a lottery because the declared acceleration is 4.4, but this car has more HP, so this acceleration can be a bit shorter. I have no choice but to check it. The range is still a question. Audi offers a maximum range of 488 kilometers, while Tesla offers 614 kilometers. It's a big difference. When you'll have to drive behind the charging station, Tesla will win in one more aspect. I'm not talking about the charging speed, which is very similar, but about the time you will spend at the charger. Although Audi boasts a well-developed infotainment system, and Audi Connect allowing you to connect to the outside world via LTE, Bluetooth and many others, eventually, when you come to charge your e-tron, you're waiting for the end of charging will end on counting the knots of the seams on the console. In Tesla, you can watch your favorite movies, create your own music, draw on a tablet or surf on popular services, and that's just the tip of the iceberg called the Tesla system. So we have only one more thing to check, driving. And I start with Audi. Behind the wheel of e-tron, I will focus mainly on how e-tron drives. Only when I switch to Tesla, I will start comparing these two cars. Why? Because the e-tron should perform much better in this aspect. It is based on a car that drives perfectly, namely Porsche Taycan. I have to admit that even in some aspects, it is better than Taycan. Of course, I compare it with the base Taycan because we have the basic e-tron, so it should look like this. And here in the basic e-tron, we have the Quattro drive. It works instantly. For example, when you drive in the efficiency mode, where the car is mainly set for range and not for driving impressions, the drive hits the front axle. However, when the car starts to slip, the rear axle joins instantly, and as Audi claims, it's 5 times faster than a manual. I have the impression that the e-tron is a bit more agile than the basic Taycan. It's willing to accelerate. It offers what I expect from electric car, from this power. When I press the gas pedal, I immediately feel the impact in the back and sudden acceleration. When I was driving the basic Taycan, I had the impression that the car was a bit sluggish. Of course, it wasn't slow, but somewhere there was a lack of it. Here, there is none. However, there is one strange thing, namely, when you are driving in the mode where the rear drive is not used, when you push the gas pedal hard and you want to accelerate, suddenly the car gets an additional kick, as if the axle was turning. It's very strong, very intense, as if a turbo was starting, but quite unpleasant. I noticed this effect many times, and when it comes to driving, I will be honest with you, I was not disappointed in this car. The car drives perfectly. Here the mass distribution is 50-50, as in Taycan. You have a battery in the floor which has a net capacity of 85 kWh, and the gross is 93 kWh. In addition, when you are going to charge this car, you can charge it on chargers from 11 kWh to 270 kWh. I used a 50 kilowatt charger and I was very surprised when the car pulled out over 70 kilowatts from it, so quite a good result. But let's get back to the driving impressions. How does it look like? It looks like the car really drives great. In standard, we have here steel brakes. However, in Audi e-tron RS, the standard brakes are already in cast iron covered with carbide. Anyway, you can also have the better brakes in this version, which are made of cast iron covered with carbide. They cost few $1,000s more. Now let's talk about comfort of driving. I have to say, I'm positively surprised. Even in dynamic mode, when the car is set for driving impressions, it's not hard or uncomfortable. On the contrary, this car is configured in such a way that it drives great. But despite the fact that I have big wheels, it's not uncomfortable at all. It is also worth mentioning these two paddles. They are used to set the recuperation level because you can do it manually or automatically. If you do it manually, you have 2 degrees of recuperation. And I'll be honest with you, it's a bit of a smoke and mirrors, because you can hardly feel that this car regains energy in any way. In my opinion, nothing changes here, so the effect is average. However, of course, you don't have to play with these paddles. All you have to do is set the system to automatic mode, and the car will adjust its driving to the most effective way to regain this energy. How does it do it? Well, of course, by reading the map. And using this map, it reads the route you will follow, and it will adjust how to get the energy back, when to sail, when not, when to use more brakes, when more engine. This is when this car works on its own, and I think this is the best mode because, as I said, this manual recuperation gives more clicks than it really does anything. I think it's time to change seats because you can really talk a lot about e-tron, but let's sit down to this Tesla and see how it drives. So how does this Tesla drive in the Audi? The first thing I want to point out is the position behind the wheel. If you are a person who likes to sit in a car quite low, you will not like driving a Tesla. I'm sitting quite high, at least that's how I feel. I feel like that because everything is shifted to this screen and the dashboard is very low. I have it on the level of the chest and I'm seated as low as possible. And that really bothers me because I'm one of those people who prefer to sit lower in the car. I had to adjust the seat for a long time to find a comfortable position for me. The second thing worth mentioning is the steering. Without a doubt, Audi wins in this aspect. Audi is driving confidently. It's willing to take the corners. Here, I'm just afraid of sharp, fast turns. I'm afraid because I don't feel the steering at all. It has 3 driving modes though: comfort, standard, and sport. Comfort mode doesn't make any difference. Standard mode is better, but there is still a lot to improve. Sport mode is the mode I use on a daily basis. During the test of this car. It makes the most adequate resistance, but it's very artificial, and the driving precision is still not perfect because I don't know what's going on with the wheels. And the worst thing is that the steering works with a slight delay, so it's a big problem for me. As for the suspension, I have to admit that it is very similar to Audi. It is comfortable as much as I would expect. I didn't complain about Audi, I won't complain about this car, because as I said, they deal with road irregularities very similarly. However, there are things here much better than in Audi. For example, the energy recovery mode. In Audi, it almost doesn't exist. Here it is amazing. Amazing to the point that you don't have to use the brake pedal at all. Really, you don't have to use the brake pedal. Believe me, I drive this car all day, and I never pressed the brake pedal just because I have the mode set to maximum recovery. And this means that the car can stop by itself. It's amazing. Of course, there are more recovery modes. You can set them according to your preferences. But look, I'm now driving to the car in front of me. I don't touch the brake pedal at all. I'm not doing anything. The car just stops. An amazing impression. And I have to admit that you have to get used to it. But when you do, you start to appreciate it and say that it's a great solution. So here Tesla is just hitting Audi on the head. Another thing that is cool in this car, I have to refer to the system that I mentioned, but now I will tell you from the point of view of driving because a lot of information is displayed on it. It's showing you live view of the car. Secondly, it shows other cars live. We know this from BMW, which shows something like this on the display of virtual clocks. However, here it is much more elaborate because you can turn this car around as you want on this road. And the most important thing that impressed me the most is the reading of the traffic lights. This car can read the lights on a regular basis. If you were driving to the lights and you didn't see the lights, which is quite difficult in this car because the roof is quite wide. I mean, this space on the roof. But if that were the case, you could look at the screen and you'd know right away what the lights are, if it's still red or if it's green. This car is really impressive in terms of technological development. You can feel the Silicon Valley, you can feel how compatible this car is with the internet and the virtual world. I don't know if you know the story that Tesla in the USA, in some area where hurricanes appeared, was able to increase the range of their cars remotely to the maximum just so they can escape from that place. This shows that this brand is really technologically advanced, and for many too advanced, which is probably why there are so many critics who say that it doesn't work, it breaks, you can't trust it. Of course, everyone is afraid of new things, but you can't say that these cars are not impressive in terms of technological solutions. To sum up, I'll be honest with you, I thought it would be a simple ball. Audi is better, it's based on Taycan, and there's nothing to discuss. But it's not really like that. Of course, if we're talking about dynamic, sporty driving, Tesla can't compete with Audi. Audi drives brilliantly, it's glued to the road, it's very intuitive, very confident in driving, and it wants to go through the corners. Here, I'm a bit afraid of these corners, especially since Tesla likes to lean on the bends. In Audi, it doesn't happen. Here, however, this car is not so stiff. As for driving on a daily basis, well, yes, okay, apart from the steering system, which is really not intuitive for me and I rarely meet with such steering systems, but taking into account all the rest, when driving on a daily basis, the suspension, the travel comfort is very similar. The acceleration is amazing, and when you have the standard mode and you press the gas pedal to the end, the effect is amazing. Audi can really hide in this regard, because here, when you press the gas pedal, the car is absurdly aggressive and accelerates so fast that I had such a feeling in the Taycan Turbo. So as you can see, if we talk about normal driving, about normal city driving, then the result of driving impressions is not as obvious as I thought. It's time to sum up this quite brave and for many strange comparison, but I think that's what's beautiful about motorization. We can look for alternatives that are not obvious at first glance. For many, however, in the case of this comparison, the problem will be Tesla as a brand itself, its infrastructure, services and the like. But if we assess the product itself, after this test, I do not see a rational reason to choose Audi. And of course, this car is more prestigious and drives much better if you drive dynamically, but on a daily basis, Tesla will do just as well. So for me, it is not worth the additional thousands of dollars. It is a matter of individual approach, and everyone has to answer this question themselves. Thank you very much for watching this test. Leave a thumbs up because it is very important for us, and share in the comments what you think about this comparison.